Hello everybody and welcome back to Conservative Lady Talk. I am your forever host Percy, and today's topic on toxic femininity is going to be divorce. As many of you guys are pretty unlucky to have been able to be a part of a divorce yourself, or you're a child of divorce such as myself. It can be definitely hard, but for those of you that I feel that are forever blessed on not knowing anything about a divorce, I'm just pretty much going to define it based on a definition from a dictionary called the New Oxford American Dictionary. Divorce is the legal dissolution of a marriage by court, meaning you go to court and you get it removed. Similar to an annulment, but not quite. Overall, they say that men lose 50% in a divorce. Honestly, I feel like the statistic is more than wrong. You do not lose half when you're a man. Instead, you lose almost everything. You're lucky if you get to keep the little 1997 Honda, unless your ex-wife is a leech. But, you may say like, oh, they lose 50%. Well, what about their retirements or their SSI or, even the assets? I'm not talking about like a boat or anything. I'm talking about like after you guys divorce, if he wants to buy another car since Karen stole the Corolla. Unfortunately, in the state of Oregon where I live, they can still take that from you. Even after you guys are divorced, if they feel revengeful enough. So in the state of Oregon, you can get a court order to take 50% from their pensions, meaning like after retirement things, like there are like retirements and there's other things that you can get for retirement as well. They can take 50% of that SSI, and they can also require that you hold insurance on them. I agree with holding insurance on your children, but your ex-wife shouldn't be able to access your health care. That's unfortunate that you'd have to pay that. Though they would still have to pay co-pays, you're still responsible for their overall care, which honestly, if they didn't love you enough to stay with you, then they sure as hell don't love you enough to still want to keep dragging you through everything, but here they are. Fortunately, in the state of Oregon, though, most of the time you need a DRO or a QDRO. The QDRO and a DRO tells the retirement system how much the employee and ex-wife in this case are to be paid when they are paid and the form of payment. Most of the time in the state of Oregon, what you do is you would pay to the state of Oregon. The state of Oregon would then put that monthly check or payment out to that person. So in that way, it's not direct transferring of money. So in that way, they can't be like, oh, well, I never got it. Unfortunately, in my life, I have witnessed 2 women be able to cash out on retirements even several years after divorce. One of the people is actually fairly close to me. I'm going to say my genetic bloodline, like incredibly close. Both of these women are, but one of them's way closer than the other. But the super closest one would have been with their partner for at least 20 years this year, and still gets to collect off of their VA benefits, and on top of that, still gets to collect off of their Social Security. That's not fair. And on top of that, gets to take some of his VA benefits when it comes to health care. If you ask me, that's legal robbery. And you know what? The court system is all for women. That's shit. I feel so bad for men. Because I, as a woman, I know that if I get divorced, I'd be more than lucky. But I also believe that divorce should only happen for 1 or 2 reasons, and neither one of them are the top reason why people get divorced. In my opinion, the 2 reasons you should be able to get divorced is infidelity or abuse towards you or your children. Those are the only 2 appropriate reasons to leave for a divorce, in my honest opinion. Other than that, the number 1 reason why people get divorced is money. Ironic. You're going to leave them and then you're going to take what's left of their money? If you ask me, that's selfish. And on top of all of that, according to a Stanford sociologist, Michael Rosenberg, 69% of divorces are actually initiated by women. Talk about robbery even to this day. And to make it all worse, divorce can lead to some serious health problems for men. And I'm not just talking about, the basic mental health like, depression, anxiety, stress. No, it actually dives into an even deeper thing, such as weight fluctuation, which, leads to the 67% of men who are overweight. Most of them are divorced men. And then on top of that, you also have things like insomnia, stress, identity loss, strokes, heart disease. And 75% of premature deaths from heart disease are men. So that's for every 3 out of 4 men that have premature heart disease, they're going to die compared to every 1 for women. And unfortunately, this can also lead to suicide because of the whole man up stigma that you guys have so hard implemented in those poor guys' head. And if you ask me, I think that's crap. A man shouldn't have to feel like he has to give his whole life up because Karen took the kids. And I'm going to keep calling them Karens because you guys are honest to God bitches. And I'm a woman. I get to use my woman card and say that. Come at me, Karen. I don't care. Come at me, feminists. I still don't care because you guys are a bunch of psychopaths. You guys want to hold men in a system of oppression, and they get mad when they cry about it. Men are allowed to cry about the oppression because it puts them into a depression. And I don't mean to be Dr. Seuss right there, but it works. And on top of all of that, it's just honest to God ridiculous that, you know, you're going to take the car, the house, pretty much all his freaking money for the rest of his entire life, have him carry insurance on your stupid ass, even though he's probably still loves you and you're still ruining him, just like you did in the relationships, you psycho. And then, you know, this doesn't even go into the whole domestic violence situation that a lot of men go through. I'm going to go into that in probably the next video or the next couple videos. I will go into domestic violence statistics with men being the victims instead of the perpetrators, because no one wants to admit that men are actually at a higher risk. To make this all worse, you know, let's talk about custody. You know, one of the worst things that can happen to a man is going through divorce and losing custody of his kids. That goes back to depression, anxiety, stress, and probably will give him a stroke from having a broken heart. And honestly, I don't blame you. I would die if someone took my kids from me if I had kids at this point. If I had kids and someone took my kids from me, it'd be the end of my world. I probably would kill myself if someone took my kids from me in a divorce, because that's just them trying to hurt you. That's not them wanting to look out for your children. That's them, honestly, God, I believe, trying to hurt you. In the spring of 2010, the U.S. Census Bureau, one of the most credible sources you can ever find for census work, reported that there is an estimated 13.7 million children or parents that had custody over children when one parent lived elsewhere. In this case, most of these children are children of products of divorces, not just, you know, mommy doesn't want to come home, she wants to go spend the night with Uncle Michael. As gross as that sounds, a lot of women are like that. Out of these parents, 1 in 6 were fathers, which is roughly 17.8% of all parents. Meaning there is a shit ton of female parents out there who probably suck at their job, because we're still getting angry men and even angrier women. Of the 17.8% of fathers who had full custody, only 18.8% of them were living below poverty. And I may have said only, but that is a really big chunk of men. That's the majority of that kind of population. And this is men that are working. This isn't men that are sitting there like most Karens, you know, getting their little nails done, looking all bougie with their Michael Kors bag, because that's what their child support payment pays. The majority of women actually don't even pay child support. I feel that's insane. There should be no way in hell that only 28.8%, according to United States Census Bureau, of single fathers who are full-time dads, who are custodials, who receive child support, compared to the 53.4% of women who do. That's insane to me. Men should be getting the same amount of child support for taking care of, you know, their children. It shouldn't be, you know, that 28.8%. That's ridiculously small. That is a really small percentage of men that are basically getting screwed by the system, because guess what? Court probably said, oh no, mom's trash, don't worry about it, we're not paying child support. No. Garbage. And then on top of that, again, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly half, or 50%, if you're challenged when it comes to percentages and fractions, that's equivalent. Those are equals. Of fathers without visitation who pay child support, meaning they never see their kids. They don't get Christmas. They don't get Easter. They don't get birthdays. You know, they don't get 4 days in the summer. They don't even get 30 minutes in the summer to go see their kiddos. You know, they don't take their kids out to lunch. But they pay child support, they take care of that kid. And yeah, you know, I understand that, you know, you brought this life into the world kind of thing, take care of it. You know, I get that. Honestly, I do. I do believe in taking care of the decisions that you've made in life. But if you're going to be paying on a child, you should be able to see it. You know, like I said, 30 minutes in the summer, you know, take your kid out to lunch for a couple hours. Maybe buy them a couple new school outfits, because, you know, that's what Trisha and Rebecca and Stacy and Karen are always complaining about. My kids never have clothes. Boo-hoo, Karen. You get $1,500 a month per child in child support. Assuming you have 2 kids, you get $3,000 a month child support. And that's assuming that she's, you know, working a part-time job, at least, unlike most women who aren't, who live off their child support. Even then, I see you getting your child support payments on Snapchat being like, yay, you know, I get my $3,000 today. You go and cash a check, you put it in your bank, you know, whatever. And then the next snap is like, oh my God, look at these nails, you know, ratchet, hashtag bougie. It's like, girl, garbage. You know, I got a garbage can next to me. Can we just toss you in it and start over from scratch? You know, let's break you down into, you don't even crap your human being, and then build you up into a beautiful one, because obviously you don't have an internal personality, and it's sad. It's a miracle anybody would have kids with a woman like that, but unfortunately that's way too common. You know, I know a few dads, honestly, that have gotten screwed over when it comes to custody. One of them is actually a really good friend of mine. Such an amazing guy. You know, honestly, he just deserves the world. He has a couple kids, and, you know, when him and his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife split, they had to go through it legally through the courts because there were children involved. So, you know, they had to get custody and parental agreement all put together. Well, when they did that, they gave full custody to the mother because he lives in a mother-honoring state, which are bullshit. You should not favor one sex over the other. But is in a woman-honoring state, and because of that, she got the kids. Despite being able proven that she is mentally unstable and should not have custody of children, she ended up abusing both of the children, and one of them is physically scarred for the rest of their life because of it. Those kids now have mental scars, and along with one kid that has physical scars. I think both kids actually might have physical scars, but I can only speak on one for sure. If you would have just given the kids to the goddamn dad to begin with, the kids would have gone through that abuse. And you know, just in general, like, that happens a ton. You know, I know another guy where, you know, he's a veteran, he's an amazing man, you know, super great, love him to pieces, just perfect, I think, in my eyes. You know, they gave the kids to his wife or ex-wife at that point, and she put him through a ton of trauma. There is just so much trauma with those poor kids, and, you know, there's like literally like almost half a dozen of them, you know, ton of kids, you know, 4. You know, I'd never want to raise 4 kids on my own. I think that anybody who does is a goddamn miracle worker. But, you know, that woman ended up getting custody of those 4 kids and ended up losing them just a few years later. And then, again, you know, had to go through another custody battle with another parental unit, so that way that other custodial parent would be able to take care of them. And it's just, it's super unfortunate. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, why do men get to be screwed in this system? Why is that fair? Why can't we acknowledge that some women are just god-awful people who don't deserve kids? You know, there are women where I honestly think that we should just force castrate them. That is extremist thinking, and I'm aware of that. And, you know, it's just an honest opinion of mine. But, you know, I really think that if a woman's going to sit there and abuse her children, I believe we should just, you know, remove the uterus. Or, you know, if she's a drug addict, remove the uterus. I mean, I know drug addicts can change and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Trust me, I know all about addicts. You know, but that doesn't give her the right to be able to have children because, you know, she can't take care of herself. How the hell is she going to take care of somebody else? And unfortunately, you know, a lot of moms are like that. Or, you know, some moms will actually lose one child to the state. I saw this all the time when I lived in Washington when, you know, I was in the foster youth system. A mother would lose 1 or 2 kids, you know, like the initial group of kids, call these kids A. You know, lose group A. Guess what? She's pregnant with group B. You know, this is just one kid, so, you know, let's call this kid B and group A, I guess, is a good way to put that. And in the state of Washington, they cannot legally remove that second child from the house, though she has been found to be mentally, physically, or anything else unfit for the other 2 children, but she gets to keep this one until she is deemed a safety risk to this current child. And if you ask me, I think that's crap. You're pretty much asking at that point to put that kid into more trauma instead of pretty much putting an eviction notice on her uterus. So that way, as soon as she has a kid, you just yeet and take that baby with you. Babies can be bottle fed. Is it that great for them? No, not really. Is it my opinion to tell people what to do with their body? No. But if a mother's going to abuse her children, she should not have the ability to bond with that child. They should give that child a surrogate parent post-birth, or even a wet nurse, which is a nurse that feeds babies that aren't theirs just because, you know, they can, because they're healthy enough to do so and have been able to maintain a proper, you know, baby feeding diet and all of that. You know, women that are trash parents should not be able to have more kids. Those are the women that we should be giving, like, forcing birth control on. Like, they shouldn't even have a choice. They should be immediately having birth control if they're going to be able to lose their kids. And, you know, even in Washington, you know, they, you know, going back to that analogy, you know, they would lose group A and they would lose baby B, and then they get pregnant again with, you know, group C. And, you know, let's say that she's having twins this time. You know, now she's up to like 5 kids, you know, 3 post-birth, 2 in birth, or in utero. And, you know, again, the cycle just keeps repeating. And again, and again, and again, all you're doing is creating traumatized children. Honestly, I was traumatized in foster care, but guess what? I was traumatized more outside of foster care than in foster care. And if I would have been taken sooner, like the plan was supposed to go, I wouldn't have gone through as much trauma. And honestly, you know, I think that's what gives me my spicy personality, which is just, you know, my way of saying I'm a little bit traumatized. But, you know, I've dealt with it, and I no longer, you know, feel those, like, traumatic thoughts anymore. They just don't affect me. But, you know, it's just like one of those things where it's like, if you guys would have done the right thing to begin with, Oregon court system, you know, we wouldn't have gone through all that. If you guys would have just given us to our male custodial parent we would have been better off. We would have been safer. But unfortunately, you know, we don't all get what we wish for. And fortunately enough, I have a relationship with my amazing father. And, you know, that's just something that is the way that it is. And, you know, I'm pretty much going to do the outro. Otherwise, I'm going to keep rambling. But thank you so much for coming into Conservative Lady Talk. I am your forever host, Percy. And I hope you have a great one.